Picture this. You're sitting in a courtroom, watching the man who married your daughter look a judge straight in the eye and say your grandchildren never wanted you, that they've been lying about loving you, that everything you believed about your family was fake. I'm Marlena Hayes. I'm 52 years old. I spent 30 years as a nurse in Phoenix, Arizona, thinking I understood people, thinking I could spot a liar from across a hospital room. Boy, was I wrong. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that when they betrayed you, it felt like the ground disappeared beneath your feet? Has anyone ever tried to steal the people you love most using lies as their weapon? The problem isn't just betrayal. It's when that betrayal targets innocent children who've already lost their mother. When someone uses grief as a tool to manipulate a courtroom. My son-in-law Devin sat 20 feet away from me, his voice steady as granite, telling Judge Morrison that 8-year-old Ember and 6-year-old Jackson had confessed they never wanted to live with Grandma, that they'd been pretending to love me to make their dead mother happy. The judge's face went stone cold. Her pen stopped moving. The entire courtroom felt like it was holding its breath. But here's what Devin didn't know. What nobody in that room knew, except me. I had been recording everything for months. 6 months earlier, my world was completely different. I was the proud mother of Cassidy Hayes Mitchell, and she was everything I'd hoped she'd become. Smart, kind, married to a man who seemed to worship her. Cassidy met Devin at a coffee shop downtown. She was 25, working as a teacher. He was 28, claimed he worked in sales. Tall, charming smile, said all the right things. Even brought me flowers on Mother's Day. Do you know someone who seemed perfect until they weren't? Someone who fooled everyone, including you? I should have seen the signs. The way Devin's jaw tightened when Cassidy laughed too loud. How he'd check her phone when he thought nobody was looking. The subtle comments about how she spent too much time with me. But love makes you blind sometimes. And Cassidy was so happy. They had Ember 2 years later, then Jackson. Those kids became my whole world. Every weekend at Grandma's house. Baking cookies, reading stories, building pillow forts. Cassidy would joke that they loved me more than her. "Mom, they light up like Christmas trees when they see you," she'd say, bouncing Jackson on her hip while Ember clung to my leg. Devin would smile, but his eyes stayed cold. I told myself I was imagining things. Then Cassidy started getting tired. Really tired. Losing weight. Having headaches that wouldn't quit. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday morning that changed everything forever. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 3 words that destroyed our family. Dr. Peterson delivered them with the kind of professional gentleness that somehow makes terrible news worse. Cassidy was only 31. 31 years old with 2 babies and a whole life ahead of her. Have you ever watched someone you love get a death sentence? Have you ever had to explain to small children why mommy is suddenly so sick? The problem wasn't just the cancer. It was watching Devin transform into someone I didn't recognize. Someone cold. Someone calculating. While Cassidy fought for her life, Devin started making lists. Insurance policies. Bank accounts. Assets. He'd sit in hospital waiting rooms with a calculator and legal papers spread across his lap. Planning for the future. He'd say when I asked. Being responsible. Meanwhile, Ember and Jackson needed stability. They needed love. They needed someone to hold them when they cried about mommy's medicine making her so sleepy. That someone was me. Every day after school, they'd run to my house. We'd do homework at my kitchen table. I'd make their favorite mac and cheese. We'd watch cartoons until Devin picked them up, usually hours later than he promised. "Grandma, why does Daddy look angry all the time now?" Ember asked me one afternoon, her small face scrunched with worry. I didn't have an answer, but I was starting to understand that Devin's mask was slipping. 3 months later, Cassidy called me to the hospital at 2 in the morning. She was dying, and she had something important to tell me. "Mom, I need you to promise me something." Cassidy's voice was barely a whisper. The machines around her bed beeped steadily, marking time we didn't have. Her hand in mine felt like paper, fragile and precious. "Do you know what it's like to make a promise to someone who's dying? When you'd agree to anything just to give them peace." "The kids," she said, her eyes finding mine in the dim hospital room. Promise me you'll take care of them. Promise me you won't let Devin raise them alone. The problem was bigger than I realized. Cassidy had been watching too, seeing things that scared her. He's different now, Mom. Cold. He talks about them like they're burdens, like they're expensive mistakes. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But with you, they're happy. They're safe. They're loved. I squeezed her hand. I promise, baby. I promise. Cassidy died 3 days later. The funeral was packed with people who loved her. Teachers from her school, neighbors, friends from college. Everyone crying, everyone sharing stories about her kindness. Devin stood at the graveside wearing a black suit and counting attendance. I saw him doing it, making mental notes about who came, who didn't, who might be useful later. After the service, Ember and Jackson clung to me like I was their life raft. They didn't want to go home with Daddy. They wanted to stay with Grandma, where Mom used to take them, where everything still smelled like her perfume. Can we live with you now? Ember asked, her face streaked with tears. Daddy doesn't hug us anymore. I looked at Devin across the cemetery. He was on his phone, already moving on to whatever came next. 2 weeks later, everything changed. Devin knocked on my door at 7 in the morning with a smile I'd never seen before. Marlena, we need to talk. Devin stood on my porch holding 2 cups of coffee like we were old friends. Like he hadn't been treating me like a stranger since Cassidy's diagnosis. Like he hadn't ignored my calls for days. This was a different Devin. Friendly. Almost charming. The Devin that Cassidy fell in love with. Have you ever had someone flip a switch on their personality so completely that it made your skin crawl? When kindness feels more dangerous than anger. I've been thinking, he said, settling into my living room chair like he owned it. About the kids. About what's best for them. The problem was I could hear Ember and Jackson upstairs, getting ready for school, completely unaware that their entire world was about to change again. They need stability, Devin continued, sipping his coffee. Routine. A father who can provide for them properly. I felt ice forming in my stomach. They have stability here. They love being here. That's just it, Marlena. They're too attached to you. It's not healthy. They need to learn to depend on their father, not their grandmother. He pulled out his phone and showed me screenshots. Job postings. Apartments. All in Seattle, Washington. I got an offer I can't refuse. Great company. Great benefits. Perfect place to start fresh with the kids. 2,000 miles away. 2,000 miles from me, from their friends, from everything they knew. Devin, you can't just uproot them. They're grieving. They need familiarity. His friendly mask slipped for just a second. Just long enough for me to see the calculation behind his eyes. I'm their father, Marlena. I decide what they need. That afternoon, after Devin left, Ember came running downstairs with her backpack and tears streaming down her face. Grandma, Daddy says we're moving far away and we can't see you anymore. We don't want to go, Grandma. We want to stay with you forever. Jackson's little arms wrapped around my waist, so tight, I thought he might break me in half. Ember stood beside him, her 8-year-old face trying so hard to be brave while tears rolled down her cheeks. Have you ever had children beg you to save them? Have you ever felt completely powerless to protect the people you love most? These weren't just my grandchildren. After 6 months of daily visits, homework help, and bedtime stories, they were my kids. My babies. And Devin knew it. Daddy doesn't read us stories anymore, Ember whispered. He just puts on cartoons and goes to his room. And he talks really loud on the phone about money, Jackson added. He says bad words when he thinks we're not listening. The problem wasn't just that Devin wanted to move. It was that he was already checked out as a father. These kids were raising themselves while he planned his escape. Can't you come with us to Seattle? Ember asked, hope lighting up her face. I knelt down to their level. Sweethearts, I can't just move across the country. But I'm going to fight for you, okay? I'm going to make sure Daddy understands how much you need your grandma. That night, after Devin picked them up, I called him. Devin, we need to talk about this move. Those children are traumatized. They just lost their mother. They'll adjust, he said coldly. Kids are resilient. They're not dogs, Devin. They're human beings with feelings and attachments. Long pause. Then his voice got really quiet. Really dangerous. Marlena, you need to understand something. I'm done playing house with you. Playing house. My voice cracked with disbelief. Is that what you call me loving those children? Devin's laugh was sharp and mean. You think this is about love? This is about control, Marlena. You want to replace Cassidy. You want to be their mother. Do you know someone who twists your love into something ugly? Someone who makes caring feel like a crime? The problem was Devin had decided I was the enemy. And he was about to wage war. I'm filing for full custody, I told Sterling Knox, the family lawyer I'd hired the next morning. Those children shouldn't be uprooted right now. Sterling was 60-something with kind eyes and 30 years of family court experience. Grandparent rights are tricky in Arizona, Marlena. But if you can prove the father is unfit. That's when I learned the truth about Devin's financial situation. Sterling's investigator found gambling debts. Lots of them. Casino records showing Devin losing thousands while Cassidy was dying in the hospital. He's been living off Cassidy's life insurance, Sterling explained. $250,000 policy. Most of it's already gone. My hands shook reading the report. He gambled away his children's security. Gets worse. He owes money to some very unfriendly people. The Seattle job? It's not a promotion. It's him running away from debt collectors. We had evidence. We had a case. We filed the custody petition on a Wednesday. Devin got served papers on Thursday. Friday morning, he filed counterpapers accusing me of child abuse. According to Devin Mitchell's sworn statement, I had been physically and emotionally abusing Ember and Jackson for months. That the children were afraid of me. That they'd been forced to pretend they loved me to avoid punishment. Every word was a lie. But lies typed on legal paper look just as official as the truth. Marlena Hayes is an unstable woman who has become obsessed with replacing my deceased wife. Devin's accusations filled 3 pages of legal documents. 3 pages of poison designed to destroy my reputation and steal my grandchildren. Have you ever been accused of something so horrible, so completely false, that you couldn't even breathe? When someone uses the legal system as a weapon against you. The problem was Devin had witnesses. People I'd never met who swore they'd seen me yell at the children. Neighbors who claimed I kept them at my house against their will. All lies. But convincing lies. Mrs. Patterson next door says she heard screaming from your house last Tuesday. Sterling read from Devin's filing. Claims she saw Jackson crying on your porch. Jackson fell off his bike and scraped his knee. I said, my voice barely controlled. I cleaned it up and put a bandage on it. Mrs. Patterson must have seen that. But Mrs. Patterson's statement said something completely different. Said she witnessed emotional abuse and concerning behavior. Devin had been busy, talking to people, planting seeds, building a story. He's also claiming you've been alienating the children from him, Sterling continued. Says you tell them negative things about their father. That's insane. I've never said anything bad about Devin in front of those kids. Can you prove that? I felt the walls closing in. How do you prove you didn't say something? How do you prove your love is real when someone's painting it as obsession? That afternoon, my doorbell rang. A woman in a navy suit stood on my porch with an official badge. Mrs. Hayes? I'm Janet Williams from Child Protective Services. I need to speak with you about some allegations. These are very serious accusations, Mrs. Hayes. Janet Williams sat in my living room with a clipboard and a recorder, treating me like I was already guilty. Like the woman who'd raised a daughter and helped raise 2 grandchildren was suddenly a monster. Do you know what it feels like to have strangers judge your entire life based on lies? When people who don't know you decide whether you're worthy of loving your own family. Can you tell me about your relationship with Ember and Jackson? Janet asked, her pen ready to write down anything that might sound suspicious. The problem was even telling the truth sounded wrong in this context. Yes, the children spent a lot of time at my house. Yes, they preferred being with me over their father. Yes, they'd said they wanted to live with me permanently. In Devin's twisted version, All of that became evidence of my manipulation. The children's father says they've become afraid to go home because you've been telling them he doesn't love them. That's absolutely false, I said firmly. I've never said anything negative about Devin to those children. Ever. Then why would they express a preference to live with you instead of their father? Because their father acts like they don't exist. Because he's planning to drag them away from everything they know. Because he gambles away their security while they sleep. But I couldn't say any of that without sounding exactly like Devin claimed I was. Children need stability, I said carefully. They need love and attention. They need someone who puts their needs first. Janet made notes. Lots of notes. The investigation took 2 weeks. Home visits. Interviews with the children at their school. Background checks. Character references. When it was over, Janet sat across from me with her final report. Mrs. Hayes, I found no evidence of abuse or neglect. The children clearly love you, and you've provided them with appropriate care. I almost cried with relief. However, she continued, I'm also recommending that custody remain with their father. Biological parents have rights that supersede grandparent preferences. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Cassidy's promise, about Ember and Jackson's tears, about Devin's cold calculation. That's when I decided to dig deeper into Devin's life. What I found made my blood run cold. Devin Mitchell wasn't just a gambler with debt problems. He was a liar who'd been living a double life for years. The private investigator Sterling hired found records going back to before Cassidy met him. Different jobs, different apartments, a pattern of moving when things got complicated. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted for years was completely fake? That their entire identity was carefully constructed lies? Most shocking was what we found about his gambling. Devin hadn't just been losing money at casinos. He'd been stealing it first. Credit card fraud, the investigator explained. He's been opening accounts in other people's names, including his deceased wife's. Devin had used Cassidy's social security number to get credit cards after she died. Maxed them out at poker tables while his children ate cereal for dinner. The insurance money is almost gone, Sterling told me. He owes bookies, credit card companies, and now the people whose identities he stole are filing police reports. But here's what made my hands shake with rage. Devin had started the paperwork to sell the house. Cassidy's house. The home where she'd raised Ember and Jackson.
Where all their memories lived.
He was going to cash out everything and disappear to Seattle, leaving his children with nothing but debt and broken promises. We have to stop him, I told Sterling. Those children deserve better. The custody hearing is in 2 days, Marlena. We'll present everything we've found. That night, Ember called me crying. Grandma, Daddy is putting our stuff in boxes. He says we're leaving tomorrow, and we can't take most of our toys because they won't fit. Tomorrow? My heart stopped. Sweetheart, put Daddy on the phone. When Devin got on the line, his voice was different. Desperate. Dangerous. Change of plans, Marlena. We're leaving tonight. You can't just disappear with those children, Devin. There's a custody hearing in 2 days. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. In the background, I could hear Ember crying and boxes being moved around. Have you ever felt completely helpless while someone you love is in danger? When you know something terrible is about to happen and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Watch me, Devin said.
His voice was different now. Desperate. Cornered.
I'm their father. I can take them anywhere I want. The problem was he was right. Legally, he could disappear with Ember and Jackson, and by the time anyone found them, it would be too late. Grandma, help us. Ember's voice came through the phone before Devin grabbed it away from her. Stay away from us, Marlena. If you try to stop me, I'll make sure those kids know exactly what kind of person their precious grandma really is. The line went dead. I called Sterling immediately. Then the police. Then Child Protective Services. Everyone gave me the same answer. Without a court order, Devin had every right to relocate his children, even in the middle of a custody dispute. I asked the officer, who came to my house. Unfortunately, yes, ma'am. He's still their legal guardian. But at 10 o'clock that night, my phone rang again. This time it was Jackson, whispering so quietly I could barely hear him. "Grandma, Daddy is sleeping." We heard him talking to scary men on the phone. "They're angry about money." "Where are you, sweetheart?" "At the motel near the big McDonald's. Room 12. "Grandma, we're scared." Those brave little voices had found a way to reach me. Now I had to find a way to save them. I drove to that motel at midnight with Sterling and a police officer who'd finally agreed to do a welfare check. The Desert Inn was the kind of place where people go to hide. Flickering neon sign, broken parking lot, rooms that rented by the hour. Do you know what it feels like to find children you love living in a place like that? When someone who's supposed to protect them puts them in danger instead. Room 12 had heavy curtains drawn tight, but I could see light leaking around the edges. Officer Martinez knocked. "Police." "Open up, Mr. Mitchell." What happened next still gives me nightmares. Devin opened that door looking like a completely different person. Hollow eyes, 3 days of stubble, clothes that hadn't been changed in who knows how long. "What do you want?" he asked, but his voice was shaky now. Afraid. Behind him, I could see the motel room. Fast food containers everywhere. 2 little kids huddled together on one bed, still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. "Mr. Mitchell, we need to talk," Officer Martinez said. "There are some concerns about the children's welfare." That's when Devin saw me standing behind the officer. His face twisted into something ugly and desperate. "This is her fault," he snarled, pointing at me. "She's been turning my kids against me. She's been poisoning them with lies about their father." "Is that true?" Officer Martinez asked me quietly. "No, sir. All I've ever done is love those children." "Daddy, why are we staying in this scary place?" Ember's small voice came from inside the room. Devin whipped around. "Get back on that bed, and don't say another word." Officer Martinez stepped forward. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm going to need you to step outside, so we can talk." For a moment, I thought Devin might run. Or fight. Or do something that would make everything worse. Instead, he started crying. Right there in the doorway, this man who'd been terrorizing me and his own children broke down completely. "I owe people money," he sobbed. "Bad people. They found me. They know where I live." "How much money do you owe, Mr. Mitchell?" Judge Morrison's voice cut through the courtroom like a blade. Devin sat at the defendant's table looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Have you ever watched someone's lies finally catch up with them? When the truth comes out, and there's nowhere left to hide. The emergency custody hearing had been called after the motel incident. Sterling presented everything we discovered. The gambling debts, the credit card fraud, the dangerous people Devin owed money to. $60,000, Your Honor, Devin whispered. "Maybe more." "And you thought the solution was to flee the state with 2 traumatized children?" The problem was Devin had painted himself into a corner. No money, no plan, no way to provide for Ember and Jackson except to keep running. "Your Honor." Sterling stood up with our evidence. "Mr. Mitchell has been living off his deceased wife's life insurance while accumulating massive gambling debts. He's committed credit card fraud using his wife's identity after her death." Judge Morrison's face got darker with every word. "Furthermore, he's exposed these children to dangerous criminals by failing to pay his debts. The motel where police found them has been linked to drug activity and violence." Devin's lawyer tried to object, but the judge held up her hand. "Mr. Mitchell, explain to me why you believe you're capable of caring for these children when you can't even care for yourself." Devin looked up with tears streaming down his face. "They're all I have left of Cassidy. If I lose them, I lose everything." "You've already lost everything," Judge Morrison said coldly. "The question is whether you're going to drag your children down with you." That's when Sterling played our trump card. The recordings I'd been making for months. Devin threatening me on the phone. Devin lying to the children about why they couldn't see Grandma. Most damning of all, Devin on a phone call with a bookie while Ember and Jackson slept in that motel room. "I need more time." Devin's voice came through the courtroom speakers. "My kids don't know anything. They can't hurt you." Judge Morrison stopped the recording. "Mr. Mitchell, did you just use your children as collateral in a gambling debt?" The courtroom went completely silent. In the matter of custody for Ember and Jackson Mitchell, this court awards full legal and physical custody to the maternal grandmother, Marlena Hayes. Those words hit me like lightning. After months of fighting, lies, legal battles, and sleepless nights, I'd won. Have you ever experienced a moment when justice actually happens? When the good guys win and the bad guys face consequences. Judge Morrison wasn't finished. Mr. Mitchell, your behavior has been reckless, dishonest, and dangerous. You've put your children at risk to feed your gambling addiction. Devin sat slumped in his chair, like a broken doll. His lawyer had stopped trying to defend him hours ago. You will surrender your parental rights immediately. You will have no unsupervised contact with these children until you've completed gambling addiction treatment and paid your debts through legal means. The problem Devin never understood was that love isn't about ownership. It's about sacrifice. It's about putting someone else's needs before your own. Mrs. Hayes, the judge turned to me. These children have been through tremendous trauma. They'll need counseling, stability, and time to heal. Yes, Your Honor. I understand. The court also orders Mr. Mitchell to pay child support based on his future earnings and to surrender any remaining insurance money to a trust fund for the children's education. As we left the courthouse, I saw Devin one last time. He looked at me with something that might have been regret. I loved her too, you know, he said quietly. I loved Cassidy. I know you did, I replied. But love isn't enough if you don't know how to show it. Sterling drove me to the school where Ember and Jackson were waiting. When I walked into that classroom and told them they were coming home with Grandma forever, Ember burst into tears. Really? We don't have to move away. Really, sweetheart. You're home. But as we walked to my car, Ember tugged on my sleeve. Grandma, there's something we never told you about Daddy. What is it, sweetheart? I asked, kneeling down to Ember's level in the school parking lot. Jackson looked around to make sure nobody was listening, then whispered, Daddy talks to Mommy. My heart stopped. What do you mean, baby? At night, when he thinks we're sleeping, he sits in Mommy's chair and talks to her picture. He cries and says he's sorry. Have you ever realized that even the worst people in your life are just broken human beings trying to survive? That sometimes the person hurting you is hurting more than you are? Ember nodded seriously. He tells Mommy he doesn't know how to be a daddy without her. That everything is too hard. The problem with Devin was never that he was evil. It was that he was lost, scared, and making terrible choices because he didn't know how to grieve properly. He loved Mommy so much that when she died, he forgot how to love us. Jackson added with 6-year-old wisdom that broke my heart. As we drove home to start our new life together, I thought about Cassidy, about the promise I'd made her, about second chances and broken people, and the difference between loving someone and knowing how to love them well. That night, after homework and dinner and bedtime stories, I tucked my grandchildren into their old beds in their old rooms with their familiar stuffed animals and night lights. Grandma, Ember said sleepily, do you think Daddy will ever get better? I smoothed her hair back from her forehead. I hope so, sweetheart. People can change when they're ready to do the hard work. Maybe someday he can visit us when he's not sad anymore. Maybe, baby. Maybe. 6 months later, I got a letter from Devin. He was in counseling, working a steady job and slowly paying back his debts. He asked if he could send birthday cards to the kids. I said yes, because that's what Cassidy would have wanted. Because healing takes time for everyone. Because these children deserve to know that their father was trying to become someone worthy of their love. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't destroying your enemy. It's helping them find their way back to being human. Ember and Jackson are thriving now. They laugh again. They sleep through the night. They're not afraid anymore. And me? I kept my promise to my daughter. I protected her babies when she couldn't. I fought for them when they couldn't fight for themselves. That's what real love does. It shows up. It fights. It never gives up. Not ever.